So now that we have half the side off of this system, it's a good time to go through the 3 different products that we have for this. One, the MaxZone Plus, which comes in 4-foot panels. 2, the MaxZone Premium, which also comes in 4-foot panels. And the MaxZone Standard, which comes in 6-foot panels. So what I wanted to point out was with the MaxZone Plus, you're going to have 4 legs, but with the Standard and the Premium, you're going to have 1 leg per side. That's not to say that if we have a chute entering from the center of this, we can put legs on the outside. We can have 2 sets of legs. That's not a big deal. The great thing about this system is that it's modular, and we can bolt it together in any configuration we want. So now we'll talk about the assembly and install of the MaxZone Plus. So where to start? That's always the hard part, right? So in this situation, I have a chute coming down right here. This is going to be the back of my chute right here. From that point, I want to start my panels for my MaxZone Plus 7 inches back from the back of this chute. Now, what we want to make sure that we don't do is have this chute inside the spoon. So the chute always has to be in front of the spoon so that we don't get a material buildup on the shelf of the spoon. So once I have that, now I can transfer that mark down to my stringers. And I want to use something solid like the end of a conveyor. When I do the end of the conveyor, I know that it's going to be the same on this side as it is on this side. So I want to measure over. In this case, we have 2 foot. So I want to make a mark on this side at 2 foot. At that point, I want to put on my support leg. Now just clamp it on for now. Don't weld it, don't drill any holes yet, because we may have to bring this up or down. We don't know exactly where the top of this is going to come in yet. So now we've transferred the back of our panel to our stringer. Now we want to make sure that, because this will most likely be at an angle, we want to make sure that this leg is going to be perpendicular with the stringer. It could be a 6-inch stringer, it could be an 8. Just for now, let's go to the bottom of this. We'll make it flush with the bottom. More than likely, we're going to have to make a vertical adjustment to this. So let's put a square on there, get it C-clamped off, and that gives us a good starting point. So now that I have this clamped, I want to measure over 4 feet from face to face and C-clamp my next one. So I just want to measure over from face to face 4 feet. And then after that, I can put my support arms on and go from there. So since all the sides are off, now might be a good time to take a look at your idlers. So you just have a chute hanging down here right now. You want to make sure that you have a nice straight edge along your belt. Any gaps in there, material could get out. These are on 12-inch centers. If you're anything more than that, you might end up with some gaps, and that could be to a belt tension too. You might want to add some tension to the belt. You'll also notice here that we have these feet right up close next to each other. Sometimes you'll see people will cut the feet off and move them closer. Whatever works out for you. Before we put in our arm, let me go over the different panels here. The XN liner assembly panel, the support arm side panel, and the upper deflector side panel. This panel here does have a side. A left side, which is what this one is, in the direction of the flow, a left and a right. This panel and this panel, they're both symmetrical. It doesn't matter which side you put them on. Okay, so now we're going to put this on. I get a hand from my assistant here, and we're going to use 1.5 by 1/2 inch bolts, galvanized structural bolts. We're going to leave a 3-inch overhang as a starting point. Somewhere around there. There you go. That's good. Now that we have our support arm side panel on, we want to go ahead and put on our XN liner assembly panel. Now we took off the liner that was on there so that you could get a good idea of what that looks like. One thing I wanted to show you was this cam. So from the outside, on this side, this is what your cam is going to look like. And that's going to adjust your liner up and down. So let me put this in here. When I get the proper measurement and spacing in between here, which is 3/4 of an inch, the hole on your cam is going to be at the top of the cam. So when I turn this, I have 1 inch of adjustment, which means I can bring my liner down 1 inch. As it wears, you might want to do that. That's what it's all about. That's why we have the cam. So now we're going to put on the XN liner outer panel, and I'm going to want to clamp this in place. Get all my bolts on. Again, we're going to use the 1.5 inch with a washer through the hole, another washer, a lock washer, and a nut. Okay, take our finger clamp off. Now I'm going to use a 1x because a 1x is typically about 3/4 of an inch. That's what we want between our belt and the liner. That'll give us, if you remember what I was saying before, that'll give us our 1 inch of travel for our liner. So we'll see, we'll get this in here. Make sure that's nice and snug, that's good. Then we can go ahead and lock this down. And at that point, now that's going to give us our height for our legs. So we can mark where we want our holes for that, and we can drill our holes, and we can go ahead and get this, our leg set. Now that the XN liner panel assembly is on, now we're going to go to the most important step, and that's going to be to center this to the belt. In order to do that, first we want to make sure that everything is plumb. Our legs are level vertically and horizontally, and then we can start to measure the inside. If we need to make any changes, any adjustments, we can do that with the slots that we have. We already know that our height is good, so we've already gone and put in the bolts for that. So we're good as far as height. We just want to make sure that this is centered. That's very important. So now that we have our panels on, we left the liners out. Now the liners can vary in thickness depending on what you get. The AR plate is 3/16 each side. Regardless, we want to measure the skirt board on from the outside skirt board. So sticking with SEMA standards, which is 2/3 of the belt width, we want 24 inches because this is a 36-inch belt. So what I have here is 23 3/4. Now and that's pretty close. Now the best way to tune that in is to go with my overhang. So I have 3 1/8 here, and I have 3 1/8 on this side. So I need to bring this back out 1/8 on each side. We left you plenty of slots up here so we can make adjustments. We just want to bring this out a little bit. Keep in mind, included with every manual, you're going to have a dimensions drawing. Make sure you locate this dimensions drawing because you're going to use it. It'll give you your overhang right here. It'll give you your width for every belt width. Very useful. Now that we have this centered to the belt, our next step is going to be to put on all our liners. After we put all our liners on, then we're going to put the next section on. So when I put my liners on, I have two. I have a 6-inch and I have an 8-inch. Obviously the 6-inch is going to go on the 6-inch piece, and the XN liner, the adjustable one, is going to be on the lower one. All right, you hold that there.
Got it.
I'll get a bolt on here. No. One thing I do want to note, when we put this liner on, we do have larger holes in here to compensate for the welded stud that's on there. So if you look, don't use a standard washer. We supply some fender washers for you. Okay, so now we're going to put the other side on. I already have this drill set for the torque spec, so you can check the instructions for torque setting. So we like to put these Teflon washers on here just so that the two panels don't bind together. Because this is an adjustable one, it's going to go up and down for your initial adjustment. Now we're going to put the lower section of liner in, the XN liner piece. We're going to use a 2-inch size fender washer, and I'm going to put the two center ones on first before I put the cam nuts on. After I get the two center ones on, now I want to put my cams on. So I have 2 cams per section, and those are going to go on the outside studs. Just to talk about the hardware a little bit, this would be your cam, and on that you're going to have a lock washer and a nut. So that's for your cam. For your other 2 studs right here, we're going to use the big washer, a lock washer, and a nut. And you're going to put those in 2 places. So you have 2 studs here, and you have 2 cams right here. So we have this side on, we just hand tightened it for now. Now we're going to get this side on. So this is my cam. The nut is going to go on the outside for adjustment. You can put a socket on that and adjust it. On the inside, you can see where the cam actually is, and that's going to line up with your slot right here. So right now, gravity is taking it all the way down, so it's at its bottom position. So I want to put this on here and get it up into the slot. Now when I rotate this, you can see how the whole liner goes up and down. And right now I just want to get the bolts and nuts on here, and then we'll go to our final adjustment on this. So just to talk about this cam a second, when you install this, you want the nut on the outside and you want the cam portion on the inside, and that's going to give you your rotation up and down. The advantage of this is that it's externally adjustable. So as we get into our final adjustments, one thing I want to make clear is that this outer panel now, we already set that at 3/4 of an inch. We're looking at our inner panel, our wear liner. Look in the manual. What our manuals suggest is that at the beginning of the run, we want to do 1/4 of an inch. So I can put a 1/4 inch shim in there. That'll work. And then at the end, for relief, just in case there's any stones stuck in there, we want the end to be higher than the beginning. So if we have 1/4 inch here, we want a 1/2 inch at the end. Now that our liners are in, everything's adjusted, we're going to wait to put the skirting on because we may have a long run and we can do that all at once. Our next thing is going to be that we're going to put this top section on. When we put this top section on, we don't want to bolt it on permanently just yet because we want to get the height to where we are with our chute. Because at this point, our chute is coming in here. It may be 6 inches too long. We don't want it to be too long. We may have to cut it. Ideally, what we want is to find the top of this section right here. Don't forget, we're going to have a top on this. We want to mark that chute, and we want to cut down 1/4 inch from that. We just want the chute to protrude through this 1/4 inch. So this unit is going to get a top cover. and you will have to do some fabricating. This dotted line you see here is going to be your chute that penetrates through the top of it. This will be a field fit. Before we put this top section on, I just wanted you to get a clear shot of this deflector plate over here and show you how much travel we have. We have about 2.5, 3 inches of travel on this. So now we're going to get this top section on. Just want to clamp it just to safety measures. And get our bolts in. Make sure our ends are flush with the other ends. And we're good. We can go ahead and tighten everything. All right, so now that the tops are on, now it's time to put the spoon on. So here's the spoon. We're going to have one guy holding it from the belt. He's going to be on the belt. And we're going to have 2 guys slide the spoon shafts from the sides. There we go. Okay. Keep in mind now, if you have a bigger belt, you may want to tie off with a chain fall or something to bring it up. If you are having trouble getting these shafts in, make sure that you're level here. Otherwise, these are going to bind. Maybe one good thing is to lay it down and make sure that the shafts fit in the first place before you even put it in. You might have to deburr it. Next, once your holes are lined in, we want to put in the 5/8 bolts by 2 inch. You can go ahead and tighten it up at this point. Next step is we're going to attach both turnbuckles. There's one on each side. And their purpose is to adjust the spoon up and down. This will be held in with a little cotter pin, so don't lose that. Now that we have our turnbuckle on, let me just go over to 3 adjustments that are on both sides of this unit. One, these 2 threaded rods right here are going to bring our deflector plates in and out so that we can center our load. 2, the turnbuckle, which is going to adjust the spoon up and down. 3, as we talked earlier, the cams for the XN liner. The whole purpose of this unit is to, 1, with the spoon, lay the material down onto the belt softly so we reduce dust. 2, to prevent mistracking of the belt, we want that material to be loaded in the center. Now, in order to load it into the center, we use these deflector plates. So to adjust the deflector plates, I have a nut on the outside and a nut on the inside. So if I loosen both of those, if I want to go in or out, I adjust either nut accordingly. And I would recommend making small changes at a time. And then once you get to where you see that material centered in the belt, go ahead and tighten everything up. Now that the spoon is in, I want to backtrack to the beginning to our starting point that we talked about, where we located the back of the chute and we came back 7 inches. So if this is my chute, you can see how important it is that the chute is before the spoon, because if it's back here, we don't want material accumulating back here. So we came up with this mark, and that is about 7 inches right there. Now we're going to put our skirting on. In order to do that, I want to put the skirting on first. I'm going to fold up the lip on the B plus skirting. Put that in there. You're probably going to have a long run of this, so it's easier just to get this in ahead of time. Now, your skirt clamps are going to come assembled like this. We found it easier to just disassemble it and put the T-bolt in, the unistrut. So I want to get that on. Then I have my bar that's going to clamp up against my skirting. Get that on. Move that nice and flush. Then I can put my washer and my clamp on. Don't tighten it up yet. You may have to bring it up just a little bit. So you don't need any tools to adjust these. Just bring these in to where it starts to get tight. Back it off a little bit. Now when I tighten this clamp, I want to tighten it on the flat of the clamp, and if I can, I want to rotate it in the same direction as the belt. So that's it for the assembly of the MaxZone Plus. Keep in mind this can be used in many configurations with older load zones, with other skirt boards, with different chutes. This could be the beginning of a long run. It could be in the middle of a run. If it's at the end, you would get a tail box. If it's in the middle, you're going to tie into two either existing skirt boards or brand new Benetech MaxZones. So that's about it. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up and join us for the next one.